Live.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, and welcome to the Board of Education Business Meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, and the time is now 7:05. With that being said, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This evening, I have Godfrey Azima, Board Vice Chair, Mary Ellen Bradley Ludwig, Kara Bakey, and virtually we have Sherry McCready Pritchett and Erica De Palma.
Sherelle's stepping out.
Sherelle Harris has joined us virtually also. Thank you, Rob. And I am going to switch over to Godfrey so he can do the spotlight for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Black History Month 2023. Noah Board of Ed is proud to recognize Black History Month at Noah Public Schools. Throughout the month, members of our community, schools, educators, and students are encouraged to honor the accomplishments of Black Americans and their important contributions throughout history. This month, the Curriculum and Instruction Department is hosting Black authors and storytellers to share different aspects of Black culture with our students. On February 8th, we hosted a storyteller and author, Juan De Pei, to present to our 4th grade students at City Hall. Juan artfully wove through stories of his life growing up in Liberia, West Africa, showcased authentic Liberian mass dancing, and taught the students how to play traditional West African musical instruments. On February 28th, we will host a district-wide Black History and Heritage Festival at Brian McMahon High School. The theme of this event is using our voices, a journey through time. We invite everyone to come see performances and presentations by our students that highlight the incredible and inspiring contributions made by Black Americans from the abolitionist movement to the Harlem Renaissance to the Civil Rights era and leading to the Black Lives Matter. In the 1920s, historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the organization he founded raised awareness of the contributions of Black Americans. The celebration was held in February to coincide with the birthdays of President Abraham Lincoln and abolitionist Frederick Douglass. The observance was expanded in 1976 to a month-long celebration as part of the nation's bicentennial. Since then, every US president has officially designated the month of February Black History Month. This year's National Black History Month theme is Black Resistance. The theme honors and recognizes the resistance of historic and ongoing oppression of Black Americans. Every year, MPS classrooms across the district highlight Black History Month by learning about historical figures, inventors, educators, and civil rights leaders. Educators highlight books written by Black American authors and poets and incorporate videos and other resources into everyday lessons. Students discuss subjects such as school integration and civil rights, landmark legal decisions, and the role of Black Americans in military history. By declaring February Black History Month, the Board of Education encourages all schools to share in activities and celebrations honoring generations of Black Americans that positively influence our community and country.
Thank you, Godfrey. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. If there's anybody here that would like to speak, and I don't know if there's anyone virtually that would like to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. And I would like to introduce our superintendent, Alexandra Estrella, for the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Board of Education Business Meeting. We have 2 items as part of the superintendent report. I would like to start off with our principal shout-outs. We have here with us Jade Wilkins from Merrimack Elementary School. Let's give them a big round of applause. Singleton from Morton High School. I'd like to welcome Jane Wilkins and her team forward to present her shout-outs today.
You wanted everybody, but there's a lot, so. As many as you. Gotta have your team behind you.
I think we need a better camera shot. I don't think the public can appreciate the group that's here, so.
Good evening, Dr. Estrella, Chairwoman Carpio, and the members of the Board of Ed. I want to thank you first for giving us an opportunity to come out and speak to you and give you a little bit of a highlight about what makes our school so special. When our team first started discussing what we wanted to share here, we just kept coming back to community. As you can see by our Merrimack supporters that are here tonight, we have teachers, certified teachers, we have paraprofessionals, we have parents, and we have students. They're so important to all of us, and we consistently work to create and maintain the sense of community in the school, where we value the ideas, opinions, cultures of others, so that everybody can feel connected to the school and really participate in the experiences that help to make students successful at school. One way we do this is by developing positive relationships. Building relationships at Merrimack means going beyond just being friendly and nice. We also spend time getting to know the interests, opinions, curiosities, and cultural experiences of our students, and using those interests to create classroom and school experiences that are relevant and relatable to our students. Our focus is on developing these positive relationships between and among all members of our school school community, student to student, staff to student, staff to staff, and staff to families. We believe that these nurturing relationships are what makes rigorous teaching and learning and continuous improvement possible. Next slide. Okay. It's still on positive relationships, I think. Yeah. Yeah, next slide, there we go. The next one. Rigorous teaching and learning. There we go. Okay. If we want our students and student staff and families to positively engage and contribute to the work that we are asking them to do, they must feel safe to take risks, share opinions and ideas, and make mistakes in order to successfully collaborate with other community members. With strong relationships in place, school becomes a safe place for children to engage meaningfully in academic discussions, collaborative problem solving, critical creative thinking, and approach learning with a growth mindset. Our school motto, nurturing hearts and empowering minds, captures the essence of our work at Merrimack. We work to provide a safe, nurturing environment so that all students feel empowered to contribute meaningfully in school and ultimately to thrive in an ever-changing multicultural society. So here's our last slide, and then we'll, as you know, Merrimack is in year 1 of candidacy toward authorization from the International Baccalaureate as a primary years program, and our school community appreciates the board's commitment to our exciting partnership with the IB. Our collaborative community and supportive school environment, coupled with our focus on providing rigorous and relevant learning experiences, provides a solid foundation for a successful partnership with the IB. Our work with teachers to improve Tier 1 instruction is aligned with the IB framework. For the past several years, we have focused our professional learning on developing rigorous teaching and learning strategies that put students at the center of the learning process. Through an inquiry-based approach, teachers plan and facilitate learning engagements that require students to collaborate with each other and focus not just on what they are learning, but how they are learning. The program's commitment to transdisciplinary learning allows students to explore concepts that have relevance across, between, and beyond subjects, which allows students to explore complex real-world problems and then take meaningful action in our community and beyond. I'd like to close with a video produced by the NPS Communications Department that captures the spirit of what we do at Merrimack. Thank the Communications Department for this. He's getting it. I also want to thank my team here, great supporters for coming out. So.
While we're waiting for that, I just wanted to say that I had a great time chatting with Mrs. Huber just before the meeting started. She was a kindergarten teacher. They are now both teenagers, one of whom is actually in college at this point. And when she came home for Christmas, we drove by Merrimack and she said, "Oh, Merrimack, I love Merrimack." So thank you all for being here tonight and for educating my kids.
You know, and the friendly faces too that we've gotten to know through the years. You know, I see Jackie, Liza, Shannon, Allison. So thank you everybody for being here. You know, this means a lot and we get to see what you guys are all about.
You should see them in the morning.
I'll have to come by and see you in the morning. Up to 8:14.
And I have to appreciate the student representative here.
There is one more that came in just as you were speaking. Welcome.
Sherry, I think, has her hand up.
No, I don't. That's a mistake. Wonderful presentation, you all.
We'll take this.
My name is Jane Wilkins. I am the very proud principal of Merrimack Elementary School. You can feel it when you walk in Merrimack. It is a school where everybody feels welcome. The staff goes above and beyond to make children and families and other staff members at every level. We work to make people feel welcome and valued.
Merrimack School, from the beginning of the day, the children feel welcomed with the music that they hear on the way in, all the teachers that are greeting them. Whether they're walking down the hall, we greet them by name, we give them the smile. They may come up and want to give you a giant hug or a high five.
I smile and when people are saying hello.
We're greeting them to make them feel important and know that they are the most important people in this building. And we would do whatever we can to make their day exciting and enjoyable and want them to come back tomorrow.
Well, what I like about my school is that the teachers teach me very well.
There's a lot of really good things about the school, but the one thing that really stands out to me is that when I don't really understand something, for all the teachers that I've had throughout all the years, they will tell me something in a different way if I don't understand it. And I really like that, and I really like how the school helps each other and stuff like that.
I've been at Merrimack now for 36 years in the building and in the district of Norwalk. Our school has changed for the better over those 36 years, where we are now holding our children more accountable for their own learning, and our teachers are taking a step back and letting the children have what you would call like a collaborative discussion. And if they make a mistake or they have a different idea, they come together and they solve it together, so that when they go into the big world and out with all the other people, they are ready to go.
So another exciting thing we're working towards at Merrimack is developing our pathway or our theme. And we've recently been approved as a candidate school for the PYP, which is Primary Years Program, for an International Baccalaureate World School.
We are on a journey right now to become an IB school. We are currently an IB candidate school. And what that means is we are starting to integrate portions of the program in order to get to a point where we can call ourselves an IB school. We have started by looking at the student. The child is always at the center of everything that we do, and that's true for the IB program as well. And so what we've started with is we've started at looking at what makes an internationally minded student. What is it that's going to make a child successful as they go out into this globally expanding world? So we are trying to encourage students to be open-minded, to be good communicators in multiple languages, to be inquirers, to see a problem and to figure out a way to solve it, to be caring individuals, to think about each other and how they can support each other along the way.
We really look at each individual student, build strong relationships with them, and really meet them where they are. Everybody's in it together to welcome and be there for any student. So I think with the engagement of the hands-on project-based learning, plus with the caring staff that we have, students exceed.
So the Genius Lab is a place where students are coming for a little extra support, and they take what they have learned, the strategies they've learned, and apply it in the classroom. And we've seen a lot of success and a lot of students that like to come to the Genius Lab and then take that enthusiasm back into the classroom. Just outside the Genius Lab, we have a saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, find the genius in us all. And so there are mirrors outside, and so especially our littles, but all of them love to look in that mirror and say, I'm the genius, I'm the genius. And so that just gives them a little extra boost in a very childlike, fun way to see that they really can do it and that they can succeed. And so that has been very successful, that the kids are very drawn to that.
One word to describe Merrimack would be
Community, because a sense of community within classrooms, within the staff, within the building. Everybody has a part in it, and everybody works together to create this welcoming community feeling when you enter this building.
Probably pride, because that's our word that we mostly use. Like every day we always say, like, make sure to show your Merrimack pride.
One word that describes Merrimack is caring. I think we see that in all facets of the school. I feel like we see that in academics in the sense that we're there to support students in every way possible, not just academically, but we're always there for them, you know, in any need.
If I ran into somebody at Stu Leonard's and they said to me, is Merrimack the place for me? I would say absolutely. I would send my own child there. We're a community of learners. We're a community of teachers that work together and collaborate, whether it's during the school day or even after school. And we welcome your child with open arms, where they are and where we're going to take them, what they don't know now and what they haven't learned yet.
You have to give Merrimack a try. It's a place where your child will feel the warmth and will feel part of the school, and your family will love it. And our teachers work really hard to make sure each child learns and grows to meet their potential.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you, everyone. See everybody here.
Good job. So the board has promised 8:15. They'll be there with you.
I'll be there.
8:15?
And 8:14.
Sorry, 8 and 8:14, let's be clear.
Several songs between them. Oh, okay. Do I need to bring a finger too?
Maybe.
I got it all set up.
She has everything. Just come early.
Diane, I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
And this could be for Jane or Dr. Estrella. With us heading into more budget conversations, there's been some question from the community about why we need IB programs. And when you hear students and teachers talk about the benefits of IB programs and referencing things like preparing our children to be global citizens, you would hope all of our schools would be preparing our children to be global citizens. So I just thought maybe we could pause and differentiate between what an IB program is, because there is a cost associated with that startup of an IB program, and how it's differentiated from some of those broader themes that we see throughout Norwalk Public Schools.
So I think Jane and one of our educators is gonna come.
So yeah, I have our PYP coordinator is Alyssa Helgeson, and she is the IB expert, so I'm going to address this.
And Melissa, could you tell us again what PYP stands for?
It's the primary years program. So the IB is a continuum, starting with the primary years program that actually starts at the age of 3 and goes through our diploma program, which ends at Franny McMahon. So we are building a continuum. I think it's a really valid question because yes, we should all be raising our children to be members of a global society, to think bigger than Norwalk in Connecticut. What I think the IB does really well is it provides a very strong framework for that. It's a concept and inquiry-based program, so it's very much based on piecing together things that we don't normally think of as together. So the transdisciplinary program allows us to look at things outside the boundaries of specific subject areas. So we are, rather than looking at just timelines in social studies, we might be looking at the concept of migration and how that shapes who we are as people and how we make decisions today based on what happened in the past. And we're going to look at that through the lens of social studies, but also we'll look at explorations in science, we'll look at the way that language has developed through migration, we'll look at how math has been shaped and how math can help us understand migration. So we're really taking one topic and bringing it to the conceptual level so that it doesn't exist in time and space, in one specific time and space. It could be applied to anywhere, meaning a child in Norwalk could be studying this, a child in Germany could be studying this, a child in South Africa could be studying this, and we'll all come to some sort of understanding so that it will give us the connection globally versus just, this is what we study in Connecticut. Isn't she good?
Do you have any additional questions, Erica?
That's it, thank you.
Wish you were here, Erica. You should feel the energy in this room right now.
I know Jane very well, and I've felt her energy my entire life.
Jane, you're a legend. Any further questions from the board before we move on? So I would like to welcome Mr. Ed Singleton to the podium. And I know that he has a crew with him. I don't know, I know they want to assemble.
So let me assemble. So I'd like to say good evening to Dr. Estrella and to board and to Chair Carpio. Thank you for this spotlight and shout out on behalf of Broken Middle School. So I'm going to let our cheerleaders do what they do. This is our first year having middle school cheerleaders. They are our backbone and the newest level of athleticism that we've added to Broken Middle School. And they have been doing their job. Under the direction of Raquel Pratt, who is our Dean of Students. And a former cheerleader said we needed to add some spice to our games. So I said, spice it up. I didn't know it was gonna cost me, but I said, spice it up. I didn't know it was gonna cost, but with everything they do, we really appreciate them. So,
Cheerleading teaches us how to be creative. Once we start, we can't be stopped. Ha, ha, ha. Our team is red hot. Our team is red hot. Our team is R-E-D-H-O-T. Once we start, we can't be stopped. Ha, ha, ha. Our team is red hot. Our team is red hot. Our team is R-E-D-H-O-T. Once we start, we can't be
my right, I have Philip Gonzalez, my assistant principal, and Raquel Pratt, my dean of students. And I think it's right that they're on my right-hand side because they truly are extension of my right hand. I cannot do what I do without these people in my life, in my school, in my everything, in my texts at night. We do everything together as a family, and I truly appreciate them for what they do. Again, Ms. Pratt is our dean of students, and she does a little bit of everything. We didn't know that she actually was a cinematographer as well for our video together. She actually was nominated for an Oscar that you'll see her. But Ms. Gonzalez and I said we will not storm the stage if she doesn't win. So you don't have to worry about that. So as you watch our video, it kind of sort of capsulizes who we are at Grove Middle School. And I want you to really pay attention because our students, this was non-scripted. They came up prompted based on a question, what does Rowan Middle School mean to you? So I want you to really hone into what they said. So here are some of the quotes that you'll hear. Rowan has students who meet high expectations and achievements. Students get to voice their opinions and be who they are. And also you get to choose what you want to do. We have lots of choices actually. Teachers are excellent, nice and kind. Our students are kind to one another. We are all caring together. Our teachers sacrifice their time to give us helpful feedback. So with this, we present you with our video presentation of Grove Middle School.
I feel like I should be at a game winning something right now.
Cheerleaders, we're in a commercial right now.
Come on, Rams, pick it up. Pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, go Rams. Pick it up, pick it up. Let's pick it up, Rams. Pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, go Rams. Pick it up, pick it up. Let's pick it up, my friends. Pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, go Rams. Pick it up, pick it up. Let's pick it up, Rams. Come on, Rams. Do it. Do it. Do it, do it.
This happens to be my favorite.
Do it. Do it, do it. Do it.
Hola, bienvenido a Rowan.
Bienvenido a Rowan Middle School.
Bienvenido al colegio. Rowan Middle School me swamped.
Konnichiwa. Welcome to Rowan.
Welcome to Rowan Middle School. Rowan has students who meet high expectations and achievements. Theater arts has a big role in this because it teaches students how to be
creative and lively, and also inspires them to do what they want.
When I think about Rowan, I think about the many opportunities and excellent choices you get. First of all, you get to voice your opinion, you be who you are, and also you get to choose what you want to do. You have a lot of choices, actually. And the people, your teachers, are really excellent, and they're kind and confident, and they're
The teachers here at Rowan are really nice and kind. They help understand everything, and when we have projects, they make them easy and fun. The field outside is nice and big, so we have lots of space to run around, play, and talk. And also, the students here are very kind. They'll lend you items if you've forgotten anything.
We're all really caring together. It honestly makes us better people for when we grow and succeed in life, because with togetherness, honestly, that's one of the main highlights of school, because everyone should feel loved and included in school.
When I think of Rowan, I think about the wonderful music program. The students and teachers will work really hard to produce a wonderful concert for the school. Also, the teachers here are hardworking and kind. They will sacrifice their time just to give us helpful feedback on our work.
You are not alone. That's the message one middle school in Norwalk wants to get across to its students. News 12 Connecticut's Lauren Fabrizi has that story. Students at Rowan Middle School in Norwalk greeted with the warmest of welcomes this Friday morning.
School sports at Rowan Middle School. There's basketball, which I play, and it brings together the team and creates teamwork and helps the students and the players have more friends. You get the fans involved, the cheerleaders are amazing, and it gets all the students to be able to come to the games and have fun and just show Rowan spirit.
So lastly, we wanted to end on our greatest accomplishments that we have so far, the reason why we go to school every day, and these are academic accomplishments. So shout out number one, our NWA math results from fall to winter to where we currently are. These are our fresh results from the NWA. Grade 6 students exceeded the national average growth results and landed in the 97th percentile. Our grade 7 students exceeded the national average growth and landed in the 63rd percentile. Our grade 8 students were slightly below the average growth, but they were slightly above the percentile for achievement. Shout out number 2 for our NWA reading results from fall to winter. Our grade 6 students exceeded the national average growth and landed in the 95th percentile. Our grade 7 students exceeded the national average growth, landed in the 81st percentile. Our grade 8 students exceeded the national average growth and landed in the 87th percentile. And in reading, all 3 grades were in the highest NWA growth above the 80th percentile. And last, but certainly not least, 96%, according to the accountability study that we recently received, 96% of Rowan Middle School graduates met the six credit requirement at the end of their 9th grade year. indicating that they are on track for high school graduation. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Can I ask you a question? Before you depart, can you talk a little bit about where you are in the IB process?
Yes, we are part of, our friend Jane and Merrimack are the PYP, we are the MYP process, MYP program. So we're the middle years program for middle school. So middle school, the MYP program is from grades 6 to 9. So we only house grades 6, 7, 8. So right now we can, actually I'll let Ms. Pratt speak in a minute. She actually, like our friend here, is our MYP coordinator. So we meet with our MYP coordinator who resides in Florida. And I'll let Ms. Pratt take it from here and explain where we are in the process.
All right, hello, good evening, everyone. So we meet with our person bi-weekly. She comes in, you meet with her monthly, but we meet with her bi-weekly. She also meets with our coaches as well. But within the process, we are a candidate school. So we are going under just like Merrimack, we are planning, making sure our lessons are rigorous, making sure our lessons are cross curriculum, and basically want to grow those global learners. So that's what we are about over there, is cross curriculum, making things relevant, project-based, community-based, and wanting our kids to see the bigger picture. So not isolating, and I think I use this analogy all the time, but not saying, finding the slope for y equals mx plus b, but actually, how will we use that? Why is knowing a slope of anything important, but making it relevant to what we're doing? Because we know, especially with our kiddos these days, they want to know the why behind whatever it is that we're doing. So just pretty much making our, again, our learning global, just global learning, along with what they said earlier. So that's what we're doing, just on the middle school level,
Thank you. And I believe Erica De Palma has a question.
Sure.
Thanks, Diana. I know last year, Dr. Estrella reintroduced middle school sports, including cheerleading, back into our schools. And can you talk a little bit about how that has impacted your culture and your student engagement? Because it really seemed like it was very much the center of the excitement around the video that you just played. And middle school sports are very close to my heart as well, and something that I would like to see continued supported in our budget as we go into the next finance cycle.
Sure, I'll let Mr. DeBellis, who is our sports coordinator, to speak to that.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for letting us be here tonight. I am the proud assistant principal of Road Middle School. That was a great question that you asked. I am the coordinator of our after-school program, and our after-school programs do not just include sports. Our teachers step up and take part in offering after-school programs. Right now, we are in our session number 2. We will be completing it soon, and beginning in March, we will begin our session number 3 that'll probably run till the end of the year. We have over 10 after-school programs, which includes different clubs, French club, we have things like arts and crafts, personal finance, and not just the sports and basketball and football and soccer for girls and boys, volleyball. We try to get as many students involved as possible. Right now we have over 200 of our students, close to half of our school involved in our after-school programs. They run Monday through Friday if possible with teachers, and we also have parents now stepping up and coming in and offering programs as well for about an hour and 15 minutes. So we'd like to increase those after-school programs. It all depends on the teachers or parents who would like to step up and offer after-school programs. So we really put a lot of time into that because we want our students not just to enjoy the school day, but we also want them to stay as long as possible and enjoy our school after as well.
Thank you. And would you say that there is a correlation with reintroducing middle school sports in increase in engagement year over year of your students?
Yes, and I was going to say, as far as the engagement, I feel like our students, they get a sense of belonging. They feel like they're belonging. It builds up the confidence. Again, one of the cheerleaders said the courageous, because, you know, with peers, they don't want to do anything in front of their peers. So this is, you know, they're cheering each other on. So I feel like the self-esteem is improving, the social aspect and conflict and resolution, because hey, you're gonna have some conflict on some teams sometime. Not the cheerleaders, we don't have conflict. But I do feel like it helped a lot with that social piece, and not only with our students, they want to do sports, they want to excel in sports. So translating, hey, you have to practice, it just doesn't happen overnight, but bringing some of those characteristics and what we have to do as far as being, persevering and discipline, all of those things are we're trying to help students transfer that over to, their academics. You're not gonna get it the first time, but guess what? Just like you didn't get the layup, you have to keep practicing. Just like you didn't get the round off, you have to keep practicing. Just like you didn't get that algebraic equation, you have to keep practicing, that perseverance. So we're teaching those IB profiles that we're learning within our students, those characteristics. We're also bringing that into sports. We're also bringing that into the academics as well. So we're trying to build that with community.
In addition to that, we just recovered middle school sports. Remember, I came from high school, so sports was always a thing in high school. So for me, it was always a thing for me. Learning that it wasn't a thing in middle school was new for me. But coming into middle school, knowing that it wasn't a thing, I learned that it was detrimental to kids, and they needed something to do outside of just going to school all day long. How do you feed into building programs at the high school level if you don't have feeder programs? So you need something for kids to do outside of what they do all day, every day, in addition to their academics. And how do you build character and how do you build the whole child if you don't have programs that build the whole child, if we're not investing in them as a community, as a district? We need these programs to exist so that we can pour into kids, pour these type of developmental skills. And there's so many type of skills that it is about the sport, but you're building skills, learning how to get along with one another. You're learning rules. You're learning how to win. You're learning how to deal with defeat. You're learning how to deal with resilience. So there's so much more that goes into sports other than just the game that you're learning at early ages that middle school kids need to learn. So we need these programs. We need them to exist, especially at Rhoden. So I don't know.
And I'm sorry to, keep drilling on this, but I just think it's an important time of year to put a lot of emphasis on middle school sports and what it's doing for our children. There may be some people playing the devil's advocate that say Parks and Rec can do that. They have extracurricular activities. And I think the comments that have been made about how you are tying in the academic pieces with sports and using it to holistically teach a child, if again, you just put emphasis on the difference between having sports in school versus a child playing in a Parks and Rec environment.
I understand a Parks and Rec environment, and I know parents who have AAU teams and other teams outside of that, but then I also understand the point where I have kids right with me under my roof on the school campus, and I need to extend their school day with me while we're here together, and I think there's an importance within that as well. So I understand and I appreciate Parks and Rec teams and travel teams, and I think those are great for a certain level of competitiveness. But then there are some kids who just want to play just for the sheer point of just wanting to play in a community sport, in a community activity. And that's what we do at Rhoden Middle School. Some kids don't want to play competitively or above and beyond what I do at my school with my friends, with my classmates. They want to do it at my school and where we provide a transportation, or I can just walk home at the end of the day. So
And also not to interrupt the finances, right, because there's a lot of
Right,
families
yeah, so,
that can't afford.
and also that's what I meant by travel team, there
travels
is
and all
a
that.
financial component to that. We provide it as an extension of the school day, is what the point I'm trying to hone in on.
And I think Joe Mataferri did an excellent job last year of.
One of my very well invested parents raising their hand, I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Can I help address the question?
Oh, fine.
So my daughter's on the cheerleading team, and one of the things she said to me first was, Miss Pratt needs to check all of her grades. And she does very well anyway, but she was very motivated to, prove to Miss Pratt that she is ready, that she is doing what she needs to do in school, and that she is deserving of a spot on the team. In addition, she does swimming on the weekends. For some odd reason, it's my responsibility to make sure that she's ready for swimming on the weekends, and I'm paying for it. As far as cheerleading, she handles everything from pom-poms to sneakers to socks. And she's very motivated to be prepared, because this is something that is personal to her that she is earning for herself. It's not something when my money is being spent, I don't get this level of preparedness. There's also a gentleman on the team that I met just walking on school grounds, and he's very well behaved during basketball season. Outside of basketball season, he's not that bad, but he is absolutely wonderful. During that, I saw him get knocked down, he didn't get upset. It really gives the kids a different perspective and ownership as far as, being able to participate. It's an honor for them. So it drives them and motivates them to do better and excel at other things that's just not academic things that they would find more difficult in a classroom setting. They're able to contribute to the school in a different way. So
I really appreciate your example.
Thank you.
And thank you for highlighting it, because there's a richness in relationships that is threaded just throughout all of this. The decision to try something new together with your peers. Coach like you, I'll do anything you tell me to. And being able to leverage that and motivate others. You can't have that opportunity available to you when relationships haven't been built 9 months out the year, from 7 a.m. all the way through 4. And these are things that don't reflect in the budget, that you really can't put an amount on. And I feel the spirit of Rowan here, and I really want to thank you for just being authentic and presenting us a snapshot of the school community. I do also want to thank Erica for driving home these significant points. You can't quantify this. These are things that, without anticipation, run the risk of really not being ready in the absence of folks not acknowledging the impact of not funding this. So I thank you for being here. I really do.
Erica?
Again, thank you for having us. If you guys want us to come back next week.
All right, thank you for that, that testimony. And it circles back to a presentation that we had last year that Coach Mataferri gave about, the state as a whole really looking to have coaches be teachers in our school system, because they have seen such a profound correlation between that relationship, to Godfrey's point, and student outcomes. And I know Doug Marchetti and John Cross have, continued to reinforce the importance of that on student outcomes. So, it is so important that we're not left behind as a district. Other districts are moving forward based on these insights and implementing middle school sports, because it has this long-term benefit for their students.
Thank you, Erica.
Sherry, do you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to say that the achievements that were noted in the shout outs were amazing. But what I wanted to say, is there anything, if any, that is needed to help you continue on that trajectory?
In terms,
Just in terms of the achievements that you've made, I mean, you presented us with some great math results and some great reading results. And so is there anything that you need, if any, that would help you to continue on that trajectory?
Obviously, I need the budget to be funded appropriately and adequately to fund my kids. It's all about my kids. I don't have a job unless these kids behind me and the 500 other that are at Rowan Middle School are sufficiently taken care of, and the teachers are there for them, and everyone from whatever part of the day that those kids interface with are sufficiently funded for whatever they need. Like today, my biggest joy today, besides every kid I greet and parent that I see in the morning, walking in, my biggest joy today was that I got a certificate from the Norwalk Board of Health for having an A1 cafeteria. And so it didn't make it into my shout outs because I ran out of room, but I'm glad I can say that today. Rowan has an A1 cafeteria and they deserve the praise because, everyone uses our cafeteria. So we need funding in every single walk of life because my kids, my adults in the building who support the kids are the ones who really need this, whatever we can get to make sure that they get an adequate, above average. And in my school improvement plan, I say world-class education. It's about a world-class education because I commit to all of my students being able to compete with anyone, everywhere they go. And I mean that wholeheartedly, that I commit my teachers, I commit myself, I commit Joe, I commit Raquel, every day that we hold our teachers accountable. Dr. Straya, Marian Shepherd, hold me accountable to make sure that my kids are able to compete every day, wherever they go in this world. So I need to make sure that we have adequate funding so that we are able to ensure that these kids get what they need. So wherever they go in life, that we've done our due diligence by these children and the parents that they have who entrust their children to our school buildings. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you and to coaches.
So, I want to thank both of our leaders and school staff and scholars here this evening as we continue to celebrate Norwalk and the great things that are happening throughout our schools. I think that Mr. Singleton said it best. We need the resources in order to continue to fund the work that our educators throughout our schools have been tirelessly working towards to ensure that our kids receive nothing but excellence day in and day out. And I hope that as we continue to engage in these budgetary conversations, that the lives that are living and breathing within our buildings are taken into account, because our children are not just numbers. They are people, they are the future of Norwalk, and without them, this town will be non-existent. And I think that that's critical to put in the forefront as we think about the work, because the future of Norwalk depends on the children that are sitting here in the audience and those other children, close to 12,000 others that are at home at this time, or at an event at one of our schools, because some of our high schools are still hosting different activities. So I think it's critical to put that at the forefront. From athletics, our music programs, our intervention programs, our day-to-day academic programs, all the resources that are in play now are critical for us to maintain a healthy educational system that will ensure that every child has an equitable education. With that said, I'd like to invite Mr. Gunda Asmani up just to provide an update to the board of where we are in the budget process, and also some of the informational pieces that we put together to support the work. And I know our educators had a long day, so go home, get ready for some Parkland. Thank you for everything you do.
GET.
GET. Oh, he's a man of many talents. Go, Linda.
My daughter cheers.
Hi.
I've been to many cheer.
Yes. They're all gonna be there at 8 o'clock sharp.
Okay, I wanted to spend some time just to give you a quick update. I know it's been a long night. Just to give a quick, it's so quiet, right?
Miss them.
Quick update on where we are with the budget process. I always like to start with this slide because I think this is kind of where we are in the process. I've shared this many times with you, but just to kind of show the trajectory and where we are, I think a lot of the drivers for this year budget, the funding scenario in 2021 is a driver to get us to where we are. And so this kind of shows the trajectory of the budget, where we are versus where we would have been had we had that more traditional funding trajectory. So when you look at that, the budget ask of whether it's 12.5% or the current recommended of 4%, I think it should be viewed in the context of 8.5%, which is where we would have otherwise been had we gone the traditional funding scenario historically. So as far as the drivers of the budget, we have these four major drivers. The base budget request is 5% of the budget. We've talked about the positions of social workers and the counselors that were not funded. They make up about 3%. We've had immense conversations about special education and how we move forward with the budget. I think special education, how we fund special education FY24 is going to be an item that we'll need to have conversations. And then obviously from the conversations we've had, the improvement teachers also, thanks to the ESSER funds, were inserted into the budget, but as we know, the need continues. And we've been able to show recent results in NWA, as you've heard from presenters today from the shout-outs, those improvement teachers have had a significant impact. So where are we with the budget? The current budget year we're in is about $217.8 million. The Board of Ed approved a tentative budget of $245.5 million. The increase was a little over $27 million, which is at 12.5%. So the mayor did come out with a recommendation a couple of weeks ago with a recommendation of $226 million, which is an $8.7 million increase, equivalent to about 4% of the ask. The difference between what's been recommended.
Can we make sure that the numbers are visible, because right now the display is covering the numbers. There we go, that's good.
Thank you. So anyway, to recap, we had a requested budget of $245.5 million, which got us to the 12.7%. The mayor's recommended budget is $226 million, which is 8.7 million or 4%. And so the difference between what the Board of Ed had approved and the mayor's recommendation is about 18.9 million or 8.7%. And so that's kind of where we are in terms of having to make up the difference and resolving, reconciling the budget, so to speak. Just by the numbers, I know sometimes when you throw these big numbers, it's difficult to wrap your heads around. So one of the recommendations, I believe, came from the board, and when we met with the school governance councils, also was to kind of show how these numbers relate to specific data points. So as an example, 1% of our budget ask is equivalent to about $2.1 million. In terms of FTEs, it is roughly 18 positions with salaries and benefits. That's about what 1% of the budget covers. The average elementary school budget is about 5.3 million. The average middle school budget is about 6.8, and the average high school is about $11 million, just for context. When you look at the ratio of some of the individual positions we're talking about, the counselors and improvement teachers, currently we have about 250 students per school counselor in the high school and middle school. So any changes to the number of counselors obviously impact this ratio. We've had conversations about improvement teachers. Currently, as far as math improvement teachers, we have a little over 1,100 students working with math improvement teachers currently, and we have a little over 1,200 positions to, should I do something here? Working with literacy improvement teachers. So those are just kind of like budget by the numbers.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So one of the things that we've done this year is, some of the numbers I shared, is to try to provide this information in formats that are different and easy for people to see. So we've started creating a series of infographics, and many of you members of the board have kind of given us ideas what to include, what are some of the questions we're having. And so this is another way of sharing the information related to the budget. And then finally, I wanted to wrap up with just some key dates that are upcoming. On Thursday of this week, the Finance and Claims Committee will be holding their public hearing that begins at 6:30. On either Tuesday, the 28th, or March 7th, there was going to be a common council meeting where they will set the preliminary budget. So the initial meeting, they do have a meeting scheduled for March 28th. If for some reason they're not able to approve it on that particular date, the backup date for that meeting has been March 7th. But I think it's the intention that on March 28th, they will approve the budget cap. At that point, the budget then moves to the Board of Estimates and Taxation, and they go through their series of reviews. On our end, second week of March, we will begin the student-based budget development process, where we start working with schools, looking at what the dollars are at that point. And so the number we have from the budget cap is going to be basically the base that we'll be using when we start engaging with the school. So we'll have a good sense of what the number is if it varies from where we are today. On March 15, the Board of Ed will be making a presentation to the Board of Estimates and Taxation. As part of their review, we will make another case for our funding, go over similar presentations to what we've done in the past, but we'll also be asking them what is it that they would like to hear, or what additional information do they feel they need from us in order for them to make their decision-making process. And then they will follow up on March 22nd with another public hearing, the second public hearing of the budget process. And then on March 27th, the Board of Estimates and Taxation, they will approve a tentative budget, which they will forward to the Common Council, who in April will set the final cap. And then on May 1st, the final budget and tax rate will be set. And that will be the last action as far as the budget is involved on the city side. At that point, on the Board of Ed, we will start working on reconciling the numbers depending on what that final number is, and making any adjustments that we need to make on the Board of Ed number, so that our budget number ties to the number that the city provides us. And then again, as we shared before, on July 1, the actual budget process begins. We do have a designated website this year, and thank you so much to the communications team, where we have provided a lot of this budget information. If you click on the QR, the scan code there, it will take you directly to the budget, but it is at noraps.org. If you just search budget, you will see all of these budget information, all the presentations we've done, the budget books. We've had a number of questions that have been asked from the council and members in the community. We've provided those answers, but we've combined all of those answers so that you can go to one place and just kind of see those series of questions and answers. But that's kind of where we are with the operating budget, but we just wanted to bring to you the update and perhaps answer any questions that you may have at this time with the budget. I know we've gone back and forth a lot on these numbers, so I'm not sure what else remains to be unsaid with the request, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for the recap. I know myself, I don't have any questions being on the finance committee, but I don't know if any other board members have any questions? Anyone virtually?
Some of the questions that have come back to me that probably it's a good time to clarify is the infographic that we put out had 160 positions at risk, but we've got 80 vacancies. Or around 80 vacancies. And, it's something that I have looked to clarify that built into the budget is the idea that those vacancies would be filled and that we're using right now outsourced resources, which cost more money than a full-time employee and substitutes. Is that fair? I would like to just put out to the public some of the side conversations that I've had with people, with their personal follow-up questions.
Yes, so in looking at positions, obviously, as we evaluate, if we get to the point of reducing positions, we will first look at what positions are vacant and what positions can remain vacant, because just because a position is vacant doesn't necessarily mean that it can remain vacant. So that'll be part of the review, is looking at what positions are vacant. When we checked the vacancies last week, we narrowed it down because HR has been doing a tremendous work recruiting. I think we're down to only 20 or 25 certified teacher positions that were vacant. And so most of our certified positions at this time are actually filled with that exception. So included in that number, we will obviously look at positions that are vacant. We will start with those that don't need to be filled or we can delay in filling, and then we will kind of work our way through in terms of the needs of the district. And then we will be doing that in collaboration with the curriculum team and with the school leaders as well. It's not going to be just a finance number-driven conversation.
I think it's worth pointing out the current times that we're in. We're looking at just the current applicant pool, and the practices we've had to exercise and also look to recreate, to keep staff and also assure that staff we have onboarded are well equipped, to meet the expectations of preparing our kids for tomorrow. This isn't a normal time for how we're really going about recruitment. That's the thing that also is easily, I think, forgotten in the conversation. Where we're at, doing what we did before COVID and trying to secure staff is nowhere close to enough. And it's another layer of discussion, and I think you now being in your role of personnel, there's an appreciation you have, just looking at how hard our HR department has worked, because we've had the lowest numbers for staff open positions throughout any point I can remember or simultaneous any presentation we've made. And what we're doing is plausible, not enough. And it will, I have such a huge concern, the impact it will have on us to be able to continue or do something different. And it's worth anyone listening who, presented the question to Erica that Erica had clarified. I don't know anyone using the same hiring practices as they did before. And to think that we can go forward leaning on things we did prior to would be foolish. Absolutely foolish.
The other comment I've gotten is, do we need pathways? Are they, expensive and part of this budget? And, one of the conversations I've had is that these pathways in collaboration with Joanna are going to result in one incremental bus, and it's $87K, which is not significant in the grand scheme of things when you think about what Pathways achieve. It is a small amount of money in the budget, but it generates a tremendous impact in terms of student outcomes. One, because we know there's a correlation between Pathways and student engagement, and then subsequently their outcomes. We also have to balance the seats in this city, and Pathways organically do that and help us avoid redistricting. If we don't balance the seats, then the state won't give us funding for school construction and reconstruction. So that's, again, just something that, I want to dispel is, $87,000 for Pathways transportation compared to the millions of dollars lost if we don't get state funding for construction and reconstruction. And in addition to that, the improved engagement and improved numbers when it comes to chronic absenteeism, that alone is a reason that we would engage in Pathways.
And we've also looked for external resources. We currently have a grant for our marine science of over $1.3 million that support that work. And we also partner with some of our local organizations that also support and resource some of our pathways as well. So that we don't have a reliability only on local dollars to support this work.
And, the last thing that I'll bring up that I think is worth, again, dispelling is the cost of the Welcome Center. Again, it's the resources that reside in the Welcome Center, they existed in the city previously. They were just scattered throughout the city, and now they're centralized so our families can easily access them. There was space already rented in the Family Center building, and that helped offset the incremental cost of running it. And again, it is a small incremental cost with a huge outcome if you think about the number of families that we're servicing and moving in and out of the Welcome Center.
To echo Errol's point, the utilization, if there's any discussion that this wasn't needed, the utilization by our families of these services, 2 days a week, 3 hours set aside, and how it was accessed is enough to demonstrate and provide evidence that this wasn't needed. And to think that this would negatively impact us if it wasn't here. Again, it's really not being mindful of who we're serving.
Mr.
And
Osmani.
finally, I'm going to drill home just one more time. The conversation around using grant dollars to fund long-term positions, and just highlight again Lunda's point that we were flat funded, and somebody had to fund supporting the learning loss of these children and the mental health of these children. And it was grant dollars, because our city would not fund our public schools in that year. So we were forced into that position. And I think that's very important to highlight, especially when you look at Norwalk being one of the only school districts in the state that were flat funded in the height of a global pandemic.
And I think it's important to articulate that during the time, the governor had set an executive order not to lay off employees as well. So we didn't have the luxury of realigning our budget to address the flat funding that took place at that time, other than utilize ESSER dollars to ensure that we continue to have the services that students needed, and also to align ourselves to the executive order of the time at the time. And I think it was a great decision made, because our students needed the resources, our staff engaged in phenomenal work that is evidenced by some of the survey results that we recently had relative to what's happening in other places. Us seeing a decline in some of the areas of trauma that we have been concerned for a period of time is testament to the progress that our staff has made in supporting our scholars. And also looking at the interventionists and the achievement that our students have attained despite what they have lost by having these support structures within our schools. And that's also thanks to our educators throughout the district. I think Sherry had a question.
So, Mr. Asmani, just very quickly, tell us what it will look like. At the 4%, I would expect that there will have to be some positions that are terminated, that are gone. Can you tell us what that might look like?
Right, so as I mentioned, in consultation with school leaders and the curriculum department and other department heads around the school system, obviously we would first look at, what positions were vacant, that could remain vacant. We would start with those positions. We would look at, and the challenge with the schools is, it's easy to say we would look at programs, but our programs are people and students, and so we don't have programs that exist in isolation. So if you eliminate a program, you can eliminate the program with the people within that program, but then the recipients of that program are also impacted. And so those are some of the decisions that you have to make. And the challenge is with the gap that we're in, if our composition was different, we're an organization that's 85% personnel. There's just no way, there's only so much you can do outside of personnel that would get you to that target. At this point, we don't know what those positions would be, but obviously there are priorities in the strategic plan. We want to ensure that students are set to succeed, quality education, success for all, and therefore in looking at that, we would obviously be looking at what programs need to stay in place so that not to impact where we're going. So yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. It's difficult to answer the question, and I get that question a lot, what are you going to cut? At this point, we haven't engaged the schools with a school-based budget. We've talked about looking at class sizes. We've talked about looking at support staff within the schools. You try to do as much as possible that does not directly impact the students. And once 80% of our personnel are teaching and student-related staff, right? And so that's part of the challenge. And so as we begin the school-based budget process, we'll be working with our schools and our leaders to figure out how do we get there. Is there other opportunities, professional development and training? As the superintendent has said, nothing is off the table. There are no sacred cows, so to speak, that are there, but the goal is to try to do the least impactful to student learning, but with a budget our size, that's not a whole lot. I think there's a graph that we've shared that 80% of our budget is classroom and student services. And so when you're looking to make those types of adjustments, there's not a lot of money or funding in any of those other categories to make a significant difference to the budget. It's almost impossible to make these types of reductions without impacting staff, given our composition.
Just to further add to your question, I think it's going to be detrimental to the organization at large. Just thinking about the tiering of cuts that would have to happen at a 4%. It will dismantle essential programming that we see as critical and vital to continuing a fair, equitable education that exemplifies many of the things that were discussed this evening by our staff. And we have a strategic plan that kind of led the path forward in terms of the work that we need to do, and it would put at jeopardy the work that needs to happen as per the plan. We had an efficiency study conducted that spoke to the gaps that we had given the size of our district, and now we're saying we're cutting even more of where we were already short-staffed. And I think that has to be elevated, because this was a study conducted in collaboration with the city to highlight areas of maybe strengths, areas that we could collaborate. I know that the facilities and operations team have done a phenomenal job working with the city and building efficiencies in ways that we can better operationalize different aspects of the work. And we have utilized the efficiency study to do that. Yet now with what is being proposed, we cannot continue moving forward on that trajectory. One, because many of the things that we were already at a deficit will now be at a larger loss than we were before. And then to further add, now we're going to be dismantling things that work and that we have data that support that they work because of the fact that we're not being funded based on what we need.
When you were talking about dismantling, that means also dismantling the communities of these schools. For example, the two that were here this evening, it doesn't matter what you cut, because if you cut and you replace someone by someone else, outsourcing, trickle-down effect, contractual agreements, you're going to change that cohesiveness of how well they're working together now. And you might be taking away someone important for some of these children that, you know, that's the only person that they have that they can speak to, that they feel safe with, that they are learning from. For the example of the mom that said, you know, that her daughter was working hard because of cheerleading, that she was being told that her grades have to be good. You remove cheerleading, you remove that teacher, you remove those people, that child's life changes completely, and we don't know how that's going to affect her. And that's only one child. Imagine all the children in the district. So any little thing is going to affect many children, many staff members. So it's very difficult to sit here and think about, you know, 4%. People are looking at it as just a number, but it's bigger than just a number.
It's people, and I think that, Ms. Carpio, you said it well. I think that, Kara, you also articulated the beauty of knowing the people in the room and how they help raise your children. And we risk losing that sense of community, that connection, making sure that our children are able to go back to those people that helped raise them because they were part of their village, because it will disrupt the organization at large, particularly with rifting and shifting. The rifting and shifting that happens when you engage in an accessing process. And it tears apart the very fabric that Naramek spoke about today, the importance of community as working as a team. That has been built could be torn in this process because of the nature in which some of the accessing happens and the unfortunate events that take place as a result of that. And we want to maintain our schools whole. As you can see, they've done an incredible job, despite the very challenge of the pandemic and everything that came with it. You saw joy, you saw a sense of community, a sense of togetherness. You saw children that at one point didn't have the opportunity to socialize and integrate, reintegrate, and acclimate to the learning environment because we added athletics back into the middle school program, because we are providing the social emotional support that they need to be able to deal with life challenges and some of the unexpected events that happen, because we are able to provide the interventions necessary to make sure that students feel success every day they go into the classroom. And now we're talking about destroying the very fabric that brought kids back together again after a really challenging 2 years. And I think that people need to think about people before, and not just numbers, because unfortunately, these percentages, as Mr. Asmani articulated earlier, equate to human beings. And we can't put a price on that.
And just to echo what you just said, Dr. Estrella, I feel like there's literally this would be the most awful time for a budget cut like this. This is the first time since the 2018-2019 school year that we've had a quote normal year, meaning no hybrid, no required masks on these kids. They are now just coming out of the pandemic, kind of. And it concerns me beyond belief that we might be having to make these changes that would so directly impact these children who, as we know in some of the data that we saw a couple of months ago, mental health is, definitely a big concern right now for middle and high schoolers. So it's very, very concerning that we're where we are right now.
And we're going to get this very significant historic event that we just experienced, that just the education system as a whole. And I've always learned you'd rather be at the end of a historic event or before. We haven't realized the detrimental impact from this yet. All that we are articulating is what was expected going into this. This has shocked education, period. I don't know what else has been this historic. And when I think of what our kids have endured, how much more do we want them to compromise? The expectation we have for our kids is to do well, not the bare minimum. I don't know what student has succeeded without meeting the expectations set forth by adults by utilizing appropriate tools. The more that we take away from our kids, it does not align with what it is that we as a board are committed to ensuring our kids have access to. And I don't know how many other ways to look at it, but this drastically impacts our kid trajectory being in this town. I want leaders in our schools that will carry us out in the future. This isn't what we're demonstrating when we look at cutting such massive lines from our budget. It isn't appropriate to pay back our teachers what we know they're enduring, to have them expect more with less. And they're not superhuman. And I think it's something that needs to be really looked at for what we expect our district to do.
And I will close with saying our educators supported us through the most challenging time, I think, in many of our lifetimes' educational experience. And now paying them with this, I don't think it's fair. I think our educators deserve more. I think we need to sit back at the table and really think through how our schools are being funded. I respect the fact that we have to take into consideration our taxpayers and what that means. But without a strong educational system, our real estate is also at risk, right? So we have to protect the most important investment in the city, which is our children. And I hope that as we continue to engage in this dialogue, we put that at the forefront of our discussion. Thank you, Ms. Rosemont.
Can I just, one comment, just from a slightly different angle. This something I've heard from the community. It is about the grants that we have gone for. And I don't want to leave the discussion today without mentioning through the hard work and alertness of our system, we were able to get this huge grant from Verizon for the 3 middle schools. And if you could just comment on how we are always looking for grants, whether they're federal, state, they're from philanthropic. There's always a sense of looking for all kinds of ways to fund the activities for our children, and we've been quite successful, but we need more.
To add to that, I think the community is not aware of how much money has been brought in by grants and partnerships. And that also is a testament to who Dr. Estrella is, because she's not from Connecticut, but she came in with a vision and all that experience that she did in New York to be able to stretch that dollar, to be able to come to NOMA, to be able to have a strong team to stretch the dollar here and find all those fundings and be able to get that. I think the total dollar amount at another meeting would be something that we should put out so that the community sees how much has been saved.
How much has been saved and how much you are alert to looking for things. That I think has been lost, that you're not satisfied with just, okay, if we only want something from the city, we really also want to look, no stone unturned.
So I wanted to invite one of the masterminds behind these efforts, Ms. Sandra Payois, that supports a lot of this work. But before you elaborate, I think I'll start off with the Verizon grant. Normally, and I lost my voice. The Verizon Innovation Grants are usually only afforded one lab per district. And when we started the conversation, Mr. Valencizi and I was like, let's just apply for all of them. And the only thing they could tell us is no. And when we got the first letter, then we got the second letter, and then we got the third letter. So like, oh my God, this has never happened before. And it just speaks to not only our resilient commitment to ensuring that we reduce the amount of hardship on our taxpayers and our community, but also the work that our team has done, because I know that a lot of the big reason why it happened was because of when we applied for the initial grant, how well Valencizi's team worked to ensure that all of the elements of being a one-to-one device middle school were put in play in accordance to the grant, and they saw how well we worked with them. I think that played a big role in us being able to be awarded multi-million-dollar STEAM labs, STEM labs.
To support what you're saying, when I went to the ribbon cutting, I asked the representative from Verizon, how many other schools in Connecticut have received this award? And he said, this is it. I said, you're kidding me, 3 in Norwalk? And he said, for the tri-state area, he wasn't sure if there were too many more, but this is the only one for Connecticut. And so that really does speak to your ingenuity and persistence, which is quite remarkable.
And then in addition to that, we're looking always at federal, state grants. Even in summer school, if you recall, we really transformed how summer school learning is happening. We partnered with the Maritime and formed a really strong allegiance with them around summer school learning. We went for every grant possible, thanks to Sandra's team, that she can speak more of. But any moment, anytime that we can see something that could bring further assets to the district, we take advantage of it.
So just to second that, we apply to everything that comes through, either if it comes through Dr. Estrella or it comes from the city or somebody sends us an email. So those are competitive grants, and we apply for every single competitive grant that is before us. Right, I was actually reading one right now, but we're applying for a school security grant that is a reimbursement grant. So grants just work different. It depends on what they're willing to fund, and sometimes you have to actually demonstrate that you've invested in what the grant is seeking, and then you get reimbursement for it. And then if you can actually demonstrate that you have a solid enough plan, you may ask for a future ask. So it depends on what the grant is seeking. So it's about finding the match of what it is that you're seeking as a district and what the grant is seeking to fund. So right now we're doing one with food services for a community grant with the Family Center. We're doing one with Nora Community Health Center for school-based health. I'm doing this school security one right now with the rest of the finance team. We just did a behavioral health one that we submitted, and we have a diversity and recruitment one that we're submitting soon. And then we have the one that we were awarded with the Maritime for the 1.3. And sometimes like the Maritime will have to apply because the LEA is not allowed to apply, but we do the writing and then the Maritime will submit. Or the Carver, we just did one with the Carver. So sometimes you don't get it because they find that there's other organizations that have a greater need. But we always apply and we partner with the Carver in a lot of our grants, and then we partner with the Maritime in quite a few of them also.
And we've been
But
quite
it's
successful, you
always
can
happening.
brag.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we
I mean,
almost
this
always-
demonstrates-
We almost always get them, so when we don't get them, I'm always really surprised.
But the diligence is what I'm commending here.
And we can put together something more comprehensive so that you can have a better idea of what it is that, how much money gets brought in by grants.
And we also have philanthropic dollars. Our data and analytics team is funded through philanthropic dollars. We're talking over $1.3 million just in that initiative. And a lot of our equity and inclusion work has been funded through philanthropic dollars as well. So we're always looking for external resources to continue to further extend programming and offerings that don't always fall in the back of our taxpayers. And it's substantive.
All these examples of investments made by our partners, it's hard to believe that it's not blaring, showing the city that we're worth it. You know, I'm just listening to all these different examples that demonstrate the merit that the city, we as a school district have to really be awarded these grants. There's so many different examples, and being mindful of different metrics that is factored into each of them. I don't know how much more we can say or show that it's clear the investment in us will bring the return, and we are worth it. It's almost unbelievable, you know, being mindful of what Dr. Adamowski secured, and in Dr. Straya's time here, it's no comparison. And I don't know how much more examples are needed to demonstrate that. I'll pause there.
So one of the things I share in the monthly financial report that you have with you, and I do the narrative, 20% of the total operational funding of the district is grant funded.
20%.
20%. So we are only 80% funded with local tax dollars. So all these efforts that Ms. Ayers mentioned, Superintendent and Mr. Vancisi have talked about, we've been able to reduce the share of the budget off of the tax base to the tune of 20%. And that number keeps growing. So
That's huge.
That is.
It's huge. I mean,
So-
I work with CFOs from other districts, and there are very few districts that can say 20% of their operational budget is funded by grants, and only 80% is funded by taxes. And we're one of the few that have that higher percent of grant funded operational costs, expenses.
Grants and awards.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, we have the best standing right there, talking on the microphone. You know, awards that the public don't find out either sometimes.
And we're going for this year again.
Thank you.
That concludes the superintendent report.
Linda, we're not gonna get a BUDG.
Yeah, BUD, GET.
We'll have to get it resolved. Okay, well, thank you. This was great information. So the next item on the agenda is action consent. This is the section where we will vote to approve multiple items at once. If anybody has any questions on the following, we have approval of personnel, approval of budget transfers, approval of minutes. If anyone has any questions, otherwise we'll move forward with the vote.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Do you need somebody to make a motion?
thank you. I went blank there, how many times? Sherry, you make the motion?
McCready Pritchard's making the motion for the consent vote.
Thank you, Sherry. Seconded by?
Second.
Mary Ellen? All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous by 6 of us. Cheryl Harris has had to leave the meeting. Next section is I will put together the policies to vote them together, but before that, we have approval of grant contract with State of Connecticut Department of Agriculture, Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids Program at PONUS. Sandra had spoken about that before. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Motion to approve. Kara, seconded by?
Second, Sherry McCready Pritchett.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Okay, unanimous, thank you. So the approval of Series 4000 policies. These policies have been discussing in the policy committee. We have approval of the jury duty policy, approval of the dual employment policy, approval of the temporary and part-time personnel policy, and approval nominations of administrative and supervisory personnel policy. Any questions on these? Okay, nomination to approve.
Nominate.
Mary Ellen?
To approve.
Seconded by Godfrey. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous. And the last one that we need to approve is the wellness policy. Nomination to approve. Kara, seconded by Mary Ellen. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Erica, did you speak?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, that's unanimous. And I guess we will speak with Lunde again. Do we have a monthly financial report?
Very, very quick. So I'll just go on this one slide. You do have the full report in front of you. So what this shows is that year-to-date, total budget spent, and this is as of January, so we were over half the year through, about 58% of the year. We spent about 51.8% of the budget. Year over year, we're about 10% over where we were last year. But that's kind of consistent with what we would anticipate to be. Our salaries at this point in time are 2.7% higher than where we were this time last year. Our benefits are about 17% higher than last year, and again, that is more of a timing. That is, so that is more timing of our payments, our professional technical services, and our property services are typically where we would anticipate them to be this time of year. There's really nothing that stands out of the norm in the transfer that we've done. As I mentioned before, we continue to watch the special education expenses. Right now, our strategy is to transfer from within the current budget. We don't feel like with this year's, where we are with this year's budget, that we are at a point where we need to go to the city for a special appropriation. Mr. Pennington and our finance team has been working together just to make sure that we can move things around. But other than that, we're where we would anticipate to be this time of year. So there's really no concern with the budget and the trends for this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Straightforward.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
And now, committee representative reports. Anyone have any reports this week? I know that we've been off for a few days, but I didn't know if anybody had any updates.
I'd like to give an update on the curriculum committee. We had, Rob was there for the last meeting, and it was really something to celebrate. The scores, as we heard from, from Rhoton Middle School, but we heard from other schools, the scores on the NWEA were, when they tracked the children that received help from the improvement teachers, they found in the this part I remember, K through 3, they found an improvement of 15 to 16%. And the 4 through 8th grade, a 5 or 6% improvement. That related to how they were going to choose who needs to go to summer school. And so that impacts fewer kids need to go to summer school. There is a savings for us, but also a celebration that these children did so much better because of the impact of those improvement teachers. In national data testing. So that was really, really exciting to see. The individuals who, I think there were a dozen or maybe 10 teachers that were there to present to us. And one was saying, I just wake up in the morning, I can't wait to get to school. It is so rewarding to see them flourish. And so that was exciting to listen to the teachers get such joy in it. Was I reading that right, Rob?
You did a great job.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
Any other committee representatives?
Separate from my committee, I just wanted to give a special thanks to NAACP for inviting me to be a part of a panel discussion with a few community members and students just around attendance, and the ways school and community come together to really help establish the sense of belonging that's needed to really overcome some of the challenges that are experienced. The time spent by those who attended and the thoughtfulness to even host this type of event, I just wanted to acknowledge and share my appreciation for being part of it.
Thank you, Doctor.
I can add a liaison update.
Yes.
On the 26th and the 5th of March, our baseball coaches at Brian McMahon and Norwalk High are hosting a free youth baseball clinic. It's an opportunity to play with the coaches, but also players, and they'll go through hitting and fielding, throwing. It's for ages 7 through 12, and again, it's free, and it's the 26th and the 5th in the Norwalk High gym.
Thank you, Erica. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I have one more a statement. This wasn't from a committee, but I was reading the Connecticut Retired Teachers newsletter, and it mentioned that Norwalk could apply for grants. Students could apply for grants who were hoping, seniors in high school, hoping to be teachers, and that they were going to be giving $2,000 grants at the end of the school year. Just so if any parents or students are listening, we have any chances to talk to them, that's another source for them. Connecticut Retired Teachers.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple updates on the facilities. So we had a committee meeting earlier this month, and we had some great presentations by some of the architects that are working on our projects in the district. In particular, the Cranberry School is coming along really well. And we got to see an updated video. I don't know if you guys have seen these videos that they've been putting together from the rooftop of the current school, showing the showing the building going up. So everything from the first pieces of steel that were put into the ground all the way up, and it's sped up. So it's really cool to see it, and I'll try to get the link and share it with you guys so you can see. And then obviously Norwalk High School is moving along, and we got to see some kind of more like 3D renderings of what the building is gonna look like, so it's very exciting. And then Sono School is really moving along, and I attended last week,
Yes.
there in Mary Ellen, a community meeting at the current Sono location on Concord Street, and it was the second of 3 meetings where the architects presented the current plans for the location where the new school is going up. I would say that there was probably about a dozen families, community members there who were able to, kind of provide their inputs, ask some questions of the architects. There's one more meeting in May, and we're hoping that we'll get more family participation in that meeting. And then on the safety and security side of things, we had a committee meeting, task force meeting earlier this month as well. And I think, as I mentioned in our last business meeting, we are working on the framework for a resource book for all of our schools to be used by building administrators and school staff and teachers, leadership, et cetera, everybody. So we reviewed it really at this point from a structural perspective versus content. So we're not really there yet. But it is moving along, and I think it's going to be a great resource and tool once it's ready to be rolled out.
So, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So last item on the agenda is board member announcements. This is a section where board members can discuss anything that they're doing on the personal side so that the community gets to know them a little better. I don't know if anybody has anything to announce or talk about.
I do. So a few years ago, my daughter was one of the finalists for our STEM Invention Convention. And 2 days ago, NBC reached out to us about having us come out to present what was presented by her in Michigan to possibly be on Jimmy Fallon's show. There's a chance that Noah may be acknowledged again. And, I was pretty ecstatic.
That's
I remember how
thrilling.
I remember how frustrated I was. I didn't get to go to Michigan. But it's funny how things work out. Just one more example, we're doing things right. I thought it was a hoax, but it's pretty legit.
So keep us surprised.
Wow, you're doing a lot right there.
Oh, not me, it's the STEM program here. I just am a witness.
And it works.
That it works.
It does.
That's awesome.
On my end, I just want to remind everyone this weekend, this Saturday, it's the food collection at the Family Center for the pantry. I will not be here, so I can't say hello to everybody that will be there, but we're collecting non-perishables at the Family Center, starting at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Nothing else? I wanted to thank everybody. I know it's been a long day, long evening. Thank you, team, Dr. Estrella, my colleagues. And motion to adjourn. Kara.
Second.
Seconded by Mary Ellen. Time is now